20 years ago, Dundee United, a football club which was compared to a corner shop against its supermarket rivals, won the Scottish Premier League title. Tonight we've brought back together the men who made it possible to ask if reproducing such an achievement is just a tangerine dream. It happened when Paradise Park, the home of Dundee United, was a lot different, and since then Scottish football has transformed too. An influx of foreigners, crazy wages and sometimes the economics of the madhouse. So can a club like Dundee United be Scotland's best once more? Is it never say never or never again? But no matter the answer to that question, the magnitude of Dundee United's achievement cannot be overestimated.
Massive, massive. These players in that side, they belong in the pantheon of the great Scottish teams.
Well, the size of the achievement we had was immense. It was like going to the top of Everest and getting back down again without any mishaps.
You know, it changed Dundee United supporters' lives. You know, we had a team that we didn't really deserve.
In the intervening years, some members of the playing and coaching staff at Dundee United have gone on to further glory. For others, their stars shone most brightly during their time at Tannadice. Bowling in Broughty Ferry is about as far away from the rigours of professional football as you can get. But the genteel surroundings don't disguise a will to win that still exists in a man whose life was consumed by the beautiful game.
Take a look at this one. Bill, look, Bill, look. Oh my goodness.
When Jim McLean arrived at Tannadice in late 1971, he diligently developed a youth policy that was to produce a constant stream of young talent throughout his 21-year tenure as manager.
From the day I walked into Tannadice, it was my intention to rear young players, as many as we possibly could. From that day onwards, we knew that the only way forward for Dundee United was we couldn't buy exceptional players, but we most certainly could rear them.
There was no escaping it though. United were very much regarded as a provincial club. They'd only just escaped relegation in the first year of the Premier League, season 75-76. But they had a decent reputation in European competition, a growing core support, and McLean's unrelenting efforts to make United a force. This man was one of his most significant early signings. In the 70s, Andy Gray was a revelation as a young United striker before moving south to England. He's now one of television's most respected football pundits.
Having worked with Jim McLean for the 2 years that I was there in the early 70s, I think if any man was going to shake up the old firm, then it was going to be Jim. He had a fantastic knack somehow of getting the young Scottish talent early and getting it into Dundee United and nurturing it and making it play.
United's first ever trophy was won in 1979. Capturing the League Cup in a replay at Dens Park against Aberdeen was the start of the most glorious period in the club's history.
The first trophy was vital because, you know, you realise that, you know, you have got something to offer. You know you can win things, and they took it from there.
By the time these players gathered for the pre-season photo call in 1982, there was a growing belief that United might be on the verge of something big. The group which drove the club to the title that season amounted to a unique combination of talent both on and off the pitch. The experienced goalkeeper Hamish had a proven track record. In defence, youngsters like Richard Gough and Maurice Malpas augmented the class of central defenders Paul Heggie and David Narey. The likes of John Holt and Billy Kirkwood supplied solidity in midfield. In attack, there was the searing pace and skill of Bannon and Milne, and the goal-scoring threat of Davy Dodds and Paul Sturrock, known to teammates and fans as Luggy.
They were very good, I think, from defence, Hamish in the goal. The back four, all international players, you know. Midfield, Kirkwood, Holt, Bannon, really quick. And up front, the slowest was me, because Milne was really quick and Luggy good at turning people, scoring goals. But most of all, I think the fitness of the team was a big aspect. You know, we defended well, we hit on the break. So I think overall, the quality of the play, but also the fitness was a big, went a long way to winning the league that year.
One of the cornerstones of the team's success was Eamon Bannon, immortalised by United supporters for his scintillating solo goal against Borussia Mönchengladbach in the UEFA Cup in 1981. The flying winger who terrorised defences now runs a bed and breakfast establishment in Edinburgh with the help of his daughter Louise and the rest of his family. Looking back, Bannon sees more than pure football as the reason for United's ascendancy, and others agree.
I don't tend to look at the players as players. I look at them as personalities, and I think that the group of people that were there were an exceptional group of people, in the sense that we all got on so well together. They were all very, very, very nice people, very personable, very well behaved in a kind of social sense, if you like. Lovely families, and I think, you know, that Dundee United was an exceptionally lucky club at that stage to have good players on the park, yes, but good people off it as well.
I think our biggest asset was, as a group of players, we had utmost respect for each other, on and off the park. We got on great, obviously, on the park because we won games, but I think because we got on so well off the park, it did help us on the park.
We all grew up together. We all went out for a drink together. We all went out with our wives together. We socialised all together, and I think it was important to try and get a bond going with everybody.
The whole chemistry was fantastic. The players kept each other going when things were going against us. The dressing room was fantastic.
Incredibly, in the 82-83 season, a nucleus of only 12 players, some might say 14, made the bulk of the appearances for United. But overall, 20 players were used, and some, like striker John Reilly, made vital contributions as the team's stature grew. He says this was a team without fear.
Teams used to hate coming to Tannadice. It was like a fortress, and very rarely did a team leave Tannadice with a victory, which is disappointing nowadays because a lot of teams come to Tannadice now and they're winning left, right and centre, whereas that just wouldn't have happened before.
Well, a lot of people always used to say that, you know, the back four of that team was very, very strong. I think myself, Maurice Malpas, Heggie and Reilly, and it was, but the thing for me with that team was the whole team. The midfield worked so hard and the front three worked so hard as well that the defence never had actually, you know, too much to do.
United's corner shop or provincial label acted as a spur.
We liked that kind of thing thrown at us because we could go out and show a few people that we were capable of winning games against the Rangers and Celtic and going and winning things. Unfortunately, that's what the press perceived Dundee United to be at that time, as a corner shop club, but I think we more than held our own.
Eddie Thompson is now Dundee United's chairman. During the league-winning season, he was just a fan, and one who thought that United were the best team in Scotland and one of the best in the UK.
Under Mr McLean, and even with sort of a nucleus of 14 players playing for us that season, we began to feel we were nearly invincible. We're up against 3 top teams at that time, from what I can remember, in the old firm Rangers, Celtic, and of course we had the new firm of Aberdeen as well. But it got to the point you were going to games where you were just saying to yourself, well, you know, how many are we actually going to win by, which is quite astonishing, but also shows the level of talent that Mr McLean had available at that time.
Veteran football journalist Jerry McNee looks back on this time fondly and sees it as a healthy period in Scottish football. In what he describes as a roller coaster of a season, a game in November when United beat Rangers gave him an inkling that the championship could be Tannadice bound.
United were trailing Rangers with about 20 minutes to go and came from behind and won 4-2. I think it was Ralph Milne and Richard Gough scored. And the excitement in the crowd that day, and the crowd were going up, averaging over 11,000 at that spell, and you started then to think, maybe, just maybe, this team could do it.
During the 1980s, Dundee United's fame spread far and wide. Today, one of their ex-players and managers has brought a little bit of United here, 550 miles south of the Tay. In footballing terms, Paul Sturrock has taken the city of Plymouth by storm. He's also taken his new club, Plymouth Argyle, out of the English 3rd Division into the 2nd. Like other Dundee United figures, he recognises the role played by Jim McLean in building the great United sides of the 80s. This, of course, is a city which is steeped in maritime history. Sir Francis Drake is a celebrated figure in these parts, but now so too is the man known as Luggy. He loves it here, and Plymouth appears to be reciprocating.
Before long, if he carries on the way he's carrying on, he could be known as St. Paul. He's that highly held. The esteem in which he's held in this town is second to none.
Under Sturrock's stewardship, Plymouth Argyle's home park is undergoing a multi-million-pound transformation. Soon the old stand will be demolished to complete the modern bowl-shaped stadium. The club shop shows that Sturrock hasn't forgotten his football roots. Plymouth Argyle's away jersey is indicative of that, with the club's traditional green being displaced by a generous display of tangerine. Sturrock was one of the pivotal figures in the United League-winning side. He eventually became manager of the Tannadice club in the 90s, but that didn't work out. As a manager, he's drawn on some of the qualities of his old mentor McLean, whom he regards as a coach of the highest order.
Jim was the only manager coach that I was involved with as a player, and he won his games. I'm saying that we change here in system, we personnel change there. He's chucked me out in the left wing in certain games. You know, the wee changes like that always seem to work, and we've won a lot of games through the game with substitutions, as I said. So, you know, he was an excellent coach.
Ralph Milne's son, Robert, wears a Dundee United replica shirt from the 82-83 season, here 100 miles north of Plymouth in the small town of Nailsea, near Bristol. Milne is now the licensee of the Queen's Head pub in the town. His speed and skill made him an exceptional player, who many feel passed his peak far too early. But the memories of the championship year will never fade.
The secret of success was wee Jim, because it was like all the players, a great set of boys. There was never any animosity in the club at all, but it was like the players versus wee Jim. But wee Jim got the results, he got the best of us, and it was brilliant.
Walter Smith was Jim McLean's assistant in the 80s. In Scotland, he knows more than anyone about winning titles, having been manager of Rangers for most of their 9-in-a-row spell. But the foundations of his coaching expertise were built at Tannadice.
Jim's a fantastic coach. So I think maybe because of Jim's, you know, persona in the media, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's a fantastic coach. He put a terrific team together, and you know, when I was at Dundee United at first, he asked me to work for him as a coach. He had worked 7 years on his own. You know, I had a coach, and you know, I would, as much as anybody else now that I've been a manager for a good few years, know how difficult that was.
But in a constant drive for perfection, the demands made by McLean on his players were onerous.
It was actually quite frightening at first. I remember one of the very first games we played was at Ibrox, and after I think we lost the game 2-1 or 3-1, and Jim McLean came in and went absolutely ballistic at the players, at me, at anything.
I had 2 years with Jim, and I could not have wished to have been with a better coach. I used to think he was bullying me, and he was bringing me back for training on my own in the afternoons, and I used to think, why me, you swine? But I now realise that it's only after then that you realise that what he was doing was actually making you a better player.
Some of the players would say that they were, you know, that he'd been hard on them. I think, like, if you remember one thing about Jim McLean is he seen you, whatever game you played, the best performance you ever had. He felt it was his job to make sure you performed at that standard every week. Now, if you didn't perform at that standard every week, he wanted to know why.
A disciplinarian, treated everyone with the same hard brush. You had to take the criticism. As I said earlier, I think the players stuck together, and that's how we got through that criticism. At times he never gave us the praise we deserved either. But we're all together against him, if you want to put it that way. We were determined that we were going to beat him. And maybe he was saying that it was good psychology from him.
He was always asking the question. You discovered that after, you know, way after, you know, he's like, it was a bit of psychology, if you like, you know, he was always sort of, aye, what about this, what about that? You always dwelled on your mistakes, he never patted you in the back, you know. but he was always the thing, I'll go and show him, I'll go and show him. And that's what that was the reaction he was always looking for, you know. But, and it worked.
Why shouldn't you be hard? Football is tough. It's a tough business. And you don't get anything cheaply in the game, and you shouldn't. And Jim did work his players extremely hard. Sometimes I can understand why people don't like Jim, because he can be a hard taskmaster, and he can upset people. But it's only because he wants the best, and he's never satisfied with anything other than the best. And if he sees a player who he knows has got talent, I always felt, and this player was underachieving, it would frustrate the hell out of him. And he probably would take it out in that player. But it was only because he knew there was something more in there, and there was something better that he could try and get out. And maybe at times he went the wrong way about getting it out, but there's no doubt that every player that passed through Jim McLean's hands was better for it, one way or the other.
And I just wish I had enjoyed it a wee bit more and not had kept putting as much pressure on the players, because they were outstanding.
I think the first thing he did to me was shift me onto the left-hand side, primarily because no one else could kick with their left foot, but then again there was a position I hadn't really played before. It worked for me. It probably transformed my career in actual fact.
Scottish football was about to be transformed too as the 82-83 season came to the boil. The club paid to bus 5,000 fans to this game against Morton after United had beaten Celtic to go top of the league.
I think that was the game that most probably won us the league, because after that game I think we had 3 or 4 games left, and if we won those games we would be champions. But beating Celtic at Parkhead, you know, I think that was a crucial victory for us.
Suddenly we were a point ahead of Celtic, and rather than us chasing, we'd been sort of third and second. We were now at the top of the tree, and it was, you know, the league was in our own hands. You know, we controlled our own destiny.
The match at Greenock was one of United's last 4. They won 4-0. One of their supporters that day was a man more used to being centre stage himself, Deacon Blues Ricky Ross.
When you're away from Dundee for a while, you go to a place like Greenock, and then all you hear is all these Dundee accents, which are so distinctive in any place. And just hearing that was great, and seeing everyone, I suppose seeing everyone really happy, and just the sheer excitement of going towards this final game, which was going to be at Dens.
All United had to do then was beat their fiercest rivals Dundee on their own ground to win the league.
The build-up to Derby is big anyway, but for that particular one, to win the league on your biggest opponent's ground, it was a major build-up, and you felt the pressure all week, Greg, and the Saturday morning lunchtime was unbelievable.
The atmosphere outside was electric, but inside nobody was saying very much, you know. And we just had to listen to Jim giving us the team talk, but everybody knew their job, and we just went out and did it.
The game started at a whirlwind pace. Early on, Ralph Milne put United ahead with an exquisite goal.
Kirkwood ran across the front of me. Dodds was on my left, and I thought, here we go, here, I've got to do something here. And I looked up and he was off his line, so I chipped him.
Absolutely unbelievable. Ralph Milne's goal will live with us forever. It was absolutely fantastic. And there's no doubt that during the game it was a wee bit nervous for most of the players, and it was a nervy performance rather than an exceptional performance.
After Dave Neary was brought down in the box, United were awarded a penalty to be taken by Eamon Bannon.
George Smith, the referee, who's very pedantic type, insisted on, you know, lecturing the player that tripped him, talking to all the Dundee players to stay at the box. He made me replace the ball in a spot when it wasn't exactly in the middle. And by this stage, you know, it seemed like several minutes had elapsed and the tension was building, and I had changed my mind on where I was going to take the penalty kick. Eventually I ran up to take it, and I thought to myself, just hit the target. And I did. I didn't make a very good job of it, and the goalkeeper managed to parry it back, luckily, into sort of my area. And I just remember running to the ball to try and hit it in the net as Cammy Fraser, an old teammate of mine at Hearts, you know, was charging him at the same time. And I managed to get there just ahead of him and hit it into the net. And I can still remember Cammy filling the air with expletives when I scored the second goal.
But a goal by Dundee's Ian Ferguson meant a nerve-wracking end to the game, for if United had drawn, it could have resulted in a play-off with Celtic.
Agony. Oh, when it's the first time that you're involved in anything like that, you know.
I remember shouting to somebody, how long is it to go in the second half, you know? and I couldn't get, there was a great atmosphere, and so, how long to go, how long to go? So eventually he says, there's a bloody clock up there, and there was a clock just at the right hand side of the tunnel, you know, and it was the worst thing I ever done. I kept looking at the clock, and it just looked as if it never moved. In the last 20 minutes, it just seemed like an hour, like, you know, you were going, is that the time? Can it be? You just like the time stood still, you know. But luckily enough, we went on to win it.
At that time, we didn't realise, and we didn't take it in at that time. You know, you were walking around the track, and you were cheering, and or the fans were cheering you, but we were just not taking it in.
If you ask the majority of the players after the game how did they feel, the word that I would probably say was relief, because imagine getting so near and missing out in the final game against your neighbours. It would have been like what Hearts felt against Dundee in '86. To do what we did, it's phenomenal. It's probably something like, it's no disrespect to a team member like Southampton winning the Premier League in the modern day. That's probably something equivalent to doing what we did in '82, '83.
The next season, Dundee United reached the European Cup semi-final, an even greater achievement in Jim McLean's eyes. Part of the secret of Dundee United's success was player continuity, something which freedom of movement and greater player power under Bosman has done away with.
We had the benefit before Bosman's situation of the long-term contracts, which I got crucified for, but there's no doubts at all that I don't feel any guilt at all. My job was to do the best for Dundee United and their supporters, and I know that I definitely did that at all times.
Only one of our many interviewees is optimistic about the likes of United winning the title again.
I definitely pine for the days of the late 70s and early 80s again, and I think we might be heading back that way because financial realism is coming back into the game. And I think that can only help the Dundee Uniteds and Aberdeens and the others, because the old firm won't have the financial clout they had. They will still be more powerful, but they were more powerful then. And what you need is the coming together of the right players with the right manager, which maybe only happens every 30, 40 years. But it could happen again, and I just hope I'm here to see it.
I'd be less than honest if I didn't say it was unlikely. I mean, most people would say if you get third spot, you've achieved something, and of course you go into Europe and so on. But I would say it's not impossible in the right situation, but it will take several years for the football world in Scotland to change again, and for people like Dundee United and other provincial teams to get the opportunity to develop the youths, to bring them into a similar level to the old firm as it will be in a few years' time.
Do you think a club like Dundee United could win the Scottish Premier title again?
No.
So, is there anything now that Jim McLean would change about the glory days?
I would definitely hope to enjoy it far more, and I didn't have much hair at the time, but I wish I'd let it down and enjoyed the players' company.
Talking about the Scotland national team, if you looked at Dundee United's team in '82, '83, you must think that 7 or 8 of these people would walk straight into the national team.
No, there would be 11 of them in it.
For supporters like Ricky Ross, the memories will never be erased.
Our name is on that league title, and you know, whatever people think about it, I think it's, you know, it just it's amazing, and you know, a league title, you know, it stays with you a long time. There was a few years there where you had a good reason to have a smile on your face.